Midweek action as always. Glad to have you join us this afternoon here on News Central. I am Mawina Igbeta.
And I am Kemini Amano. The news starts right now.
Now, civil society group, the Center for Citizenship, Constitutional and Electoral Systems, has filed a suit at the Supreme Court questioning the processes leading to the suspension of Gertrude Torkornoo as Chief Justice. According to the group, the process lacks due diligence and violated standards of fairness, non-discrimination, and lawful administrative action as required by the Constitution. And we know that there are two suits, one as well seeking to injunct the ongoing process by the committee. We'll connect shortly with my colleague Lord Eduasare as well. But we know that this has traveled quite some journey. 3 petitions submitted to the president as far back somewhere in March. And the processes have led to a committee being set up, and now we know that the work of this committee has started in earnest, amongst many other things. Let's take the latest we're learning to private legal practitioner Martin Pebu on this argument being put before the court, where they say the processes leading to the suspension of the Chief Justice is questionable. Counsel, let me take your thoughts on the legal processes or the legal hurdles that this constitutional process has had to face over the last 2 or so months. What do you make of it? People really testing the law and seeking to have muddy waters made clear, or you find these as deliberate attempts to obstruct the ongoing process?
Well, Martin, I think let's put it this way. There can be an amalgam of all what you stated and even more. Yes, so it can be a very complex combination of everything you stated and even beyond that. Because naturally, well, okay, even the word is not naturally, it often happens that when a case is in court, sometimes when you delay it helps. You delay it so that some winds can also blow across, and then the case can suffer some good times, right? And so even if somebody is guilty or liable, depending on the times, the seasons, the person can get away, etc., right? So sometimes lawyers file these to delay and hope that the case will suffer some good fortune, all right? In the same manner, too, sometimes lawyers file cases to test the law. Yes, because they want to improve the law, right, etc., and many more. So we cannot rule out any of the reasons you've given. That's how to analyze this. In a society, that's the way it is. You won't have all of us having the same kind of mind. No, people have different minds, different levels of deviance, etc. So these things play out. And just like the way we say, if you be a mensa womb, right. In every profession, yes, you'll find mensa, etc. So everything applies, everything you've said.
But considering that we've seen some rulings on a number of some of the concerns raised in the past, there were questions as to whether or not the petition should have been handed over to the CJ in earnest. Some have raised other concerns as to the constitution of the committee and the likes. It does appear the Supreme Court has settled some bits and pieces of this. Now we're learning of an attempt to injunct the process altogether. What do you make of it? The case that we're in uncharted waters, and hence people are really seeking to get an understanding of the entire process.
Okay, as I stated earlier, sometimes people want to engage the law. They want to try different things. So, and we cannot take that away from them. Every citizen is allowed. Okay, sovereignty resides in the people. That's Article 1 of the Constitution, all right, and also preamble and other parts of the Constitution, right? Article 125, etc. So when people want to exercise that power, right, and also justice also emanates from the people. So A citizen can look at something and think that, no, this is not just. So I want to approach the highest court of the land. We should grant the citizen that, yes. So at least the citizen will have the opportunity to ventilate his case in court. But he's not guaranteed a win. But if it's not guaranteed a win, at least it's a form of expression. So he will be happy at the end of the process that, well, he took the matter to court and the courts also gave him an opinion. So for me, that's how we should look at it. Yes, because it's impossible to say everybody should shut up and just let the process go on unimpeded.
All right. Counsel, there's another leg of the argument I want to invite you to, having to do with details of the committee's work expected to be in camera, which we're learning about. We've got, to an extent, who is representing who in terms of the petitioners and the likes. There are those who make the argument that that could be infringing upon the framers of the Constitution and that specific provisions, intended purpose, that all of this should be held in camera. Where do you stand on that argument that, well, it serves the interest of the entire public if some bits and pieces can be known during this entire process?
Good. Yeah, so where I stand is that the Constitution is obviously behind the citizens. That the citizens' quest for transparency has moved far ahead of the Constitution. And we should note that in most Supreme Court decisions, the Supreme Court repeats the values of our Constitution, the spirit, or if you don't hear value, you see them say the spirit of the Constitution. The Supreme Court has drummed time with our number that the values or the spirit of the Constitution, all right, are transparency, probity, accountability, right, etc. So you see that citizens are asking for transparency, and also it's a form of accountability. What is the accountability? Yes, when the citizens hear and see how the questions are being asked and answered, it's also accountability. So accountability doesn't mean the person should be found liable, pay this, pay X, pay Y, or be sent to jail. No, that's not the only form of accountability. When you are put on the stand, the witness enters the box and is answering questions. That's a form of accountability. When the Chief Justice is making her case through the witnesses, right, asking questions to show that this is my case, it's a form of accountability. So the point is that the citizens want to see more of the action because they want more accountability. They want to see what went wrong. So I'm in favor of parts of the case being made public. So you can see that the citizens have moved ahead of the Constitution, way ahead of the Constitution. So we'll have to look at it. It's obvious that in the new Constitution, parts of the process will have to be made public, minimum. But ideally, the whole process will have to be made public. And it's good even the chairman of the Constitution Review Committee, Professor Kwesi Trempe, he's already made his opinion known that he thinks parts of it should be made public. And so we are in good hands. I believe at least his stance will also influence the final document. So all the citizens who are asking to see what is going on, please remember to send memos to the Constitution Review Committee. Send memos. You don't need a lawyer. Just write. You just take pen and paper, write your address. I, so and so. I feel that in the new Constitution, Article 146 should not, even if you don't say Article 146, just write simple English. When it comes to the removal of the Chief Justice, we want to see everything. Or if it's not everything, the part you want to see. Just write it like that. Take it there. Send the email. They will accept it. You don't need a lawyer. You can write ordinary English. That's it. Yes.
Right, Counsel, appreciate that you could speak to us this afternoon. We're getting to know as well of the reason why this latest group is in court. They want the entire process injuncted because the prima facie determination was not made available to the Chief Justice, which has informed the Constitution of this committee. I just want to take your opinions briefly on the arguments they are making. Then I connect with my colleague Lord Eduasare as well, who's in court. That's the argument they are making, that the prima facie determination by the Council of State and the President was so made available to the Chief Justice before the next step, which is the committee and its hearing now.
Okay, on the face of it, I see. Okay, so they're saying they didn't get, the Chief Justice didn't get a copy. But how did they know? That's the first question we should be finding out. It shouldn't that be a matter for the Chief Justice to take up? Who gave them that information? On what basis are they proceeding? Because the thing is supposed to be secretive, right? The Chief Justice has lawyers. So are we saying that if the Chief Justice didn't get a copy, her lawyers cannot write to the committee, or the lawyers cannot file such an application? Yes, you know, in this whole process, the proxies and the other, call them proxies, proxies also, people who have been filing things on this and purporting to fight a case, they seem to be making matters complex, to say the least. The Chief Justice has a lawyer, minimum, or lawyers. So how? The lawyers can't file on behalf of the Chief Justice?
Right,
because
Counsel.
There's something to be said. If it comes to the substance of giving the Chief Justice a copy, I'm strongly in favor of it.
Right.
But what is curious is how it is not coming from the Chief Justice,
but from private individuals.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Counsel. I appreciate, as always, you speaking to us. Let's go right now to Lord Eduasare, who's my colleague in court for us, because we understand two separate applications are before the court. The first is the injunction, which we've just mentioned, where they are making the argument that the prima facie determination was not made available to the Chief Justice, hence the ongoing committee work be injuncted. Lord, you have the rest of the details as well in relation to the other application before the court. Walk us through them briefly.
Right, Marina. So the case being heard before the Apex Court right now has to do with the CSO. They are the Center for Citizenship, Constitutional and Electoral Systems. Now, in their case, they have the Attorney General, the Chief Justice, the suspended Chief Justice, I should say, Gertrude Sokonu, and then Justice Gabriel Kwamang as the defendants in the case. Now, their matter is that the Chief Justice should have been afforded as it were the prima facie determination to respond to. As part of the exhibit that they attached to their documents, they indicated that they have evidence, and they cited some of the documents that Marina, you've seen in circulation on social media as part of the thing that, although the case or the matter before the committee should be in camera, it's in the public domain. So they're actually asking the court to injunct the processes, injunct the committee, and then also suspend the suspension warrant of the Chief Justice, which was issued by President Mahama. Now, they cite Justice Kwamang because he's the chairperson of the committee, and then for some reason the Chief Justice herself has been named as a defendant. Now, her lawyer, who was also in court, lawyer Edukusi, his case was slightly different. Now, he argues that there wasn't any prima facie determination at all. He indicates that if there was, it should have been made available to the Chief Justice, or it should have even been mentioned in the first place, because as it stands, there were 3 petitions that we know were forwarded to the President, which he subsequently sent to the Council of State, at which point the prima facie was determined. Now, he indicates that per the law, they should have indicated which of the petitions in which that prima facie was determined, which allegations they found the prima facie. All this was not stated, except that there was a communication by the Secretary of the President indicating that the prima facie had been determined, and so the Chief Justice had been subsequently suspended. And so these matters are still being argued in court. Before stepping out, the Deputy Attorney General, who is leading the prosecution as the defense, was also making this case that it should be struck out because the documents that they have attached to their affidavits are documents that should be classified, essentially. At this point, the lawyer indicates that they are in the public domain. They found that on social media. And then the panel of justices this time it was Amadou Tanko. He questioned him that is he sure? Can he verify that these documents that he says he acquired from social media are the classified documents that were afforded to the Council of State members, or the committee, I should say. And that argument is still ongoing as we speak. So, Mana, once we have more, we'll get back to you on that.
Most definitely, Lord. Thank you very much for those details. That's my colleague, Lord Iduasare, with details of the ongoing hearing in the court for us. And most definitely, we'll return to him as and when there is more. But let's bring you some other stories this afternoon.
Now, the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice is raising human rights and dignity concerns over the recent operation by the Ghana Immigration Service in picking up undocumented foreigners currently in the country. The Ghana Immigration Service last week picked up over 2,000 of these undocumented foreigners from major intersections following growing concerns of them constituting a nuisance on the country's roads. But that the means of ridding them off the streets is coming under some scrutiny by human rights groups. Shraj, who wants the Ghana Immigration Service to handle the undocumented foreigners with care. Well, let's show you a bit more of what we are learning from that statement released by Shraj. Now, remember, over 2,000 of these foreigners were picked up last week in response to the Ghana Immigration Service exercise. Now, government's decision to send back undocumented migrants where necessary should be done in a humane and dignified manner. That's the major call that it's being made on the Ghana Immigration Service. They also go on to say in that statement that in the considered view of the Commission, Ghana avoid situations whereby migrants sent back to their countries of origin may face persecution or harm, thereby violating the principle of non-refoulement under international law. Well, now, so that's coming from Shraj, which is calling on the Ghana Immigration Service to do this the right way. Let's have a conversation with Paul Nana Kwabena Abrompa Mensa, Programs Manager in charge of Security Sector Governance at the Ghana Center for Democratic Development and a member of the Coalition of CSOs on Migration. Paul, good afternoon to you, and thank you so much for joining us here on the news. But Paul, do tell us, from your analysis of this exercise, what exactly has the Ghana Immigration Service done wrong?
Well, good afternoon, and let me say a very good afternoon to also our listeners. And let me also acknowledge the support the German Development Corporation, GIZ, the Migration Department has been giving the coalition on migration. It's just a mere coincidence that our communique that we issued last 2 weeks and also repeated this week coincided with the exercise of the GIS, and therefore it fits well with the discussions that we are offering this afternoon. It's two ways. One, let us acknowledge the fact that Ghana has signed on to regional, sub-regional commitments on safe, orderly, and regular migration. What it means is that Ghana is going to ensure that it does not treat migrants any way they like, and they are going to conform to international principles in the handling of migration issues. So I believe it's on basis of that Third Right International and Shraj are giving a caution that Ghana takes care and also remembers the commitments that he has signed to in handling the issues of migrants. But let's also acknowledge that there are two issues in swooping of irregular migrants in the country. One, because voluntarily the migrants are out of lack of capacity, especially the minors, not being able to go to the migration department to regularize their stay or lodge their complaint of those who are going out of forced migration. Forced migration is where they are being persecuted in their countries, there are insecurity in their country, and therefore they are seeking shelter in other countries. So this exercise affords those people the opportunity to lay their problems to the migration department, to either listen to them, regularize them, or see to their concerns. On the other hand, people have also entered the country that on the point of entry, the migration agencies could not profile them. And therefore, they do this exercise from time to time to be able to update their records and know who is staying in the country irregular or illegally. So it's a two-way sword that I think in both sides need to be handled and handled well.
Indeed. So, I mean, where do we then draw the line? Because it would appear this is a very thin line between Ghana wanting to protect its borders and, you know, its interior affairs, and then also protecting undocumented migrants. Where do we draw the line?
So the line is that there are rules governing, just like Shraj quoted, governing handling, even if they came into the country forcefully or they came irregular, there are rules of handling them. One, in the profiling, where did they come from? What is the state of security in their country? Is it good that we send them back to their country at this time of persecution or insecurity? We profile that. And two, what in their country? Have they been regularized? How do we do to conform and inform them to be able to regularize their stay here? And even if they need any other support in terms of work, medication, schooling, especially the youth, how do we go about it? So that's the reason why they are not mobilized and sent out at once, but they are mobilized, profiled, interviewed to be able to know the distinction between the different types of migrants we have in the country, so as to adopt the appropriate strategies and measures in treating and dealing with them.
I see. We'll leave it here, Paul. Thank you so much for talking to us. Paul Abrompa-Mensah is a member of the CSOs on migration.
Well, this afternoon, human rights group Amnesty International is sounding the alarm over Ghana's human rights record, warning that rising attacks on protesters, journalists, and marginalized groups threaten to erode the country's democratic foundations. In a hard-hitting report, the organization highlights a surge in police brutality, the criminalization of LGBT advocacy, child marriage, and unchecked environmental destruction, calling on the government to act decisively to protect civil liberties, ensure accountability, and uphold the rights of all Ghanaians. My colleague Noble Crosby Annan is on the ground for us on this. He has details of bits and pieces of that report. Crosby, hard-hitting, what are the details?
It's the Amnesty International Ghana launch of the international report and the death sentences and executions report, and it happened today, Wednesday, 21st May 2025. So essentially, this report highlighted a lot of the human rights issues in the world, and then it broke it down to that of the SAC region, and then, of course, the mention of Ghana as well. It was starting from the global perspectives based on the death sentence and executions report in 2025. The research by Amnesty International is revealing a troubling trajectory that there is, or there has been, a 32% increase in executions globally, with 1,518 of them from 15 countries, and the highest figure back since 2015. Now, the sharp rise has been driven primarily by three countries: Iran, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and then Yemen, as well as China remaining the world's lead executioner, although exact figures remain classified as regards to the situation in China. Fast forward to the sub-Saharan African situation. I'm talking about that with North Africa, the regional trends. So Africa is making continuous progress towards abolishing. However, despite concerning developments in certain countries, there are recorded executions and death sentences that has decreased by approximately 10% across sub-Saharan Africa.
Right.
So for the second consecutive year, Somalia was the only country in the region to carry out executions, and that was 34 in total.
Any recommendations? Right. Just briefly on right. Just briefly on the details. Have they made any recommendations they are expecting African countries and Ghana to be specific, to be following through on in improving their human rights record.
Exactly, Mauna. So there's the mention of the anti-LGBTQ bill, for instance. And what they are saying is that the bill offends every spirit of our constitution and should not be signed into law. That was specifically mentioned by Genevieve Partington, who works with Amnesty International. She is the country director. And then she also spoke about women and girls being continued to be threatened in multiple dimensions. She spoke about the anti-witchcraft bill. There are some improvements, of course, as well, and that's in relation to Ghana's ranking on the 2024 World Press Freedom Index. But there's still some concerns in relation to various other aspects. We can take a listen to exactly what Jennifer said.
Has improved its ranking in the 2024 World Press Freedom Index. Elevated levels of intimidation and violence against journalists have continued. Women and girls' rights also continue to be threatened in multiple dimensions. We look at last year, April, where activists condemned the marriage of a 12-year-old girl to a priest. The girl was put under police protection, but no arrests were made. On a positive and uplifting note, we must commend the government and the Parliament of Ghana for the passing of the Affirmative Action Gender Equality Bill to increase women's participation in public life. Regarding LGBTQI people's rights, we have witnessed disturbing regression. In February last year, since the bill was introduced into Parliament, that is the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill, when it was passed, we saw a rise in cases of abuse towards the LGBTQI community. The bill offends the very spirit of our Constitution and should not be signed into law.
That's Genevieve Partington. She's the country director of Amnesty International. Earlier, my colleague Noble Crosby-Annan with some details from the latest report by the group on Ghana and then the rest of the African continent. We're going for our very first break here on News Central. When we return, we're back on the streets checking if that decongestion exercise which took place yesterday in the capital has produced any substantial results. We'll give you the details if you stay with us here on News Central. Please stay with us.
Why are more and more professionals choosing Flamingo paint?
As an interior decorator, I aim for that beautiful, elegant look. Flamingo paint has great hiding ability to cover and transform old walls easily with just one coat.
Impressive. For me, as a professional painter, I love Flamingo paint because with just small paints, I paint huge area, meaning more profit for me. Great value for money.
As an architect, Flamingo paint, with its well-researched and solid composition, guarantees durability for all my buildings.
Flamingo paint, superior hiding, superior coverage, superior durability. Flamingo paint, simply superior.
It's time for the main event. This is incredible. He has written it, and the dream lives on. I cannot believe it.
Stay connected to DSTV this April and May and get all the football finals you want. Impressor oil na capsules kura ahwadi nura eboa eyi yawa enam sasabro osisi wachiri bremo ne afi waposo nyina afiri ni padua no mu. Impressor capsules kura ahwodi a etumi boa esiesie no mpa ɛho akokwa nea ntokrontokro de demo ene afi waposo gregira awewie no nyina esiesie no ema no ahoden foforo kra wope eduru a obetumi de wo ho atoso na ayi wo honam ya wo nyina ade a ene impressor ne eduru a wona owo yefun yade mpo etumi no mbie se onom impressor capsules na wo de impressor oil twitwi bia eye wo ya no a ene wato adi ya wo bedwane entem so kra impressor ya wo bedwane FDA age adwade nkrato ya to
Expect greatness. Expect magic. Who will be crowned the winner of Talented Kids Season 16? Is it Classical Boy? Ice Girl?
Bumble.
Inshiraba? 2Gs. Kema? Who goes home with a cash prize of 20,000 Ghana cedis and an all-expense-paid educational trip to the Netherlands and UK, powered by the CTIW Foundation? Dial *713*19# and follow the prompts to grab your tickets. The grand finale of Talented Kids Season 16 is here on Sunday, May 25th at the National Theatre, Accra, 3 p.m. right here on TV3. Talented Kids, free to play.
Powered by Indomie. Sponsored by
Napa Foods,
Flora Tissues, Top Choco,
Fortune Spread for Bread, Vitamilk,
You Fresh Juice, CTIW Foundation.
When the sun rises, there is hope. While this hope lingers on, the citizens look up to the government, the economy, the national development agenda, and everything in between.
On Ghana Tonight, it's our utmost priority to bring you insightful conversations on the economy, break down the biggest issues while setting the agenda for transformation and national development. The big and important stories are treated from the human interest angle, while facts and the figures are painted with precision. So now, let's cut the convention and start the conversation here on Ghana Tonight. I am your host, Alfred Okamse.
Ghana Tonight shows Monday to Friday at 10 p.m. on TV3. Brought to you by
Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.
Welcome back. Now, the Accra Metropolitan Assembly Task Force decongestion exercise is taking place at Circle, New Plant Station, Kaneshi, and other parts of the capital. Hundreds of traders have been evicted, leading to tensions between traders and members of the task force. We can now connect with Joseph Armstrong Goldalogbe, who's with the team. Joseph, good afternoon. What can you report from these rounds?
Today's exercise that happens to be the two is still ongoing as I speak to you, but it appears that the efforts of the assembly will probably be a repetition of what we've seen over the years, where after the decongestion exercise, the traders come back onto the streets again. Yesterday, they did clear some parts of the streets from Mokola, and today they are circle heading towards Kaneshi. But as I speak to you, Kameni, the traders are fully back on the streets or on the pavement again, and you wouldn't even tell if indeed any exercise took place yesterday and today. And also because over the years, when they clear the people from the pavement, they leave some task force members behind to patrol the streets, but this time around it's not the case. So immediately they move to the next stage, the traders or the hawkers come back to their usual place, making the exercise not successful, if I may put it that way. So tomorrow is day 3, which happens to the last day. As I speak to you now, the mayor of Accra has moved to pay a courtesy call on the government chair to introduce himself to him and also tell him what is actually happening in the capital city now. But Kemeni, if I may say, it looks like more has to be done to ensure that this exercise of decongesting the capital city more needs to be put in place to make it a successful venture. Kemeni.
I see. And what do the traders say is the reason they are back on the streets? What have they been telling you?
So it appears not much information or education has gone on. They've not been oriented what exactly the assembly wants to do. Not enough information was given to them, hence they are not prepared to go to the said markets allocated for them. According to them, all the markets are choked, and the only place they have now to trade is on the pavement, which is why they cannot leave the pavement yet. And they've also said that, well, this is a one-day wonder, as we've seen from the early 90s through the 2000s to now. They know that this one, just let's do something for people to see how we are working. Immediately they are gone, we are back. So they ask them to move, they move, they go and stay somewhere, watch them, and this time around is too strict. The duration between the traders coming back onto the pavement and what we've seen over the years, this one is so strict to the sense that if you come to Circle right now as I speak to you, you will not even notice that any exercise has taken place here today.
I see. Have officials given up on the exercise because of the incidents that have taken place today?
They've not, but I can report also that we moved from Circle, the local station area, to Carnation. The intention was for us to continue with the decongestion exercise over there. But when they got to Circle, they did not make any stopover. They just look at the place and then they continued. As I speak to you right now, we don't know where exactly the next spot is going to be. But what we knew was from Circle, Newtown Station, we are going to head towards Carnation and start with the exercise there too. But currently, we don't know what's the next line of action, which also informs us that not much planning has gone into this decongestion exercise that is currently taking place. And people, especially the traders, are saying that they have to meet the stakeholders, plan with them, know how exactly they can make this exercise a successful one so that the tax force will not take undue advantage of what is currently happening to enrich their pockets.
I see. We'll leave it here. Thank you so much for talking to us. Joseph Gold Armstrong Alogbe there. He's been with the task force decongesting the capital city. Coming up now is By the Numbers. Now, the Greater Accra region is becoming choked. With population density on the rise, it is natural to see the emergence of challenges such as floods, increased pollution and waste generation. Today on By the Numbers, we spotlight the population bloat of the region and examine the root causes behind issues we currently face, such as the recent floods and heavy vehicular traffic. Before we delve into the numbers, it's worth noting that ahead of the 2024 elections, President John Mahama, then candidate Mahama, outlined plans to design a framework for relocating the capital. So Ghana has a new administrative center.
We will start a visibility study and a plan to build a new city. Accra is getting gridlocked. The time has come for us to move some parts of the government services out of Accra. Accra will continue to be the capital, but we'll move part of it outside. There's land on the Accra Plains, there's land on the other bank of the Water Lake, and all that. And so we can move some of the ministries, agencies, and departments out of the city so that we decongest Accra. Because Accra has expanded to its limits. The way it is going, if we're not careful, it will be difficult to continue to manage it as a viable city. And so we'll start the plan and the design and the feasibility. I believe that this will be a project that will take maybe 20 years to fulfill, but we need to start somewhere. And so we'll start, others will come and continue from where.
Well, it's also on record that the former president, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, acknowledged the need for restructuring to deal with issues such as floods in the capital city.
Government will continue to work towards the day when Ghanaians, especially those in Accra, will live in calm and tranquility through the rainy season. Metropolitan, municipal, and district chief assemblies have been charged to ensure the obstructions to the free flow of water, as well as developments along waterways, are removed immediately. MMDAs are also to ensure the strict adherence of developers to the planning laws of our country and sanction staff who have issued permits for structures to be built on waterways to serve as a deterrent to others who seek to engage in such acts. To ensure these directives are strictly complied with, I have established a monitoring unit at Jubilee House that will be reporting directly to me on the progress of the implementation of these measures.
But the question the numbers will answer today is, how did we get here? Moena, what are the numbers saying?
Well, it's been quite an exponential growth in terms of the capital Accra from the first recorded numbers that we've been seeing up until what it is that we're seeing now. Currently, our population stands at, as of the last time of check, 2021, which is what I have here, and I know you'll be giving us fresh data and then projection to the future as well. But these are the key facts that we're seeking to highlight for you. 5.4 million, that's the population in the capital Accra or the greater Accra region. The entire size, 3,245 kilometers square. That's how, that's what the size of the capital is like. There are 1.1 million vehicles in the capital. And then we produce annually 900,000 tons of waste every year, and quite succinctly, it's the smallest but most densely populated region in the country, serving as the economic and administrative hub of the country. And we're going to break down for you what the numbers look like, and I'm not going to do that here. I'll just seek to do that from here for you, what the growth numbers have looked like for the capital. And so I mentioned the first recorded data that we were able to gather had us around 20,000 in the year 1891. From there on, we've climbed up to 5.4 million in 2021, exponential growth since independence as well. And then let's try and walk through the key highlights as and when the data was recorded. And so in 1891, 20,000 people. 1960, that's when after independence, 388,000 persons in the capital. Then let's do a long jump to the year 2000. We crossed the 1.6 million mark. And then in 2021, 5.4 million of us are in Accra. I mentioned we'll give you present data shortly, but that's been 27 times growth in terms of what we've seen since the 1960s. And if you want to look at it from 1891, that's 272 times the number. But let's begin to break it down further, because there's been conversations about decongestion of the capital, and then as well what we've seen in terms of the exercise being done by the Accra Metro, amongst many other things, and talk the population density, because there is 1,680 people every kilometer square in the capital Accra. That's according to latest numbers from the Ghana Statistical Service. And Ghana's most densely populated region is the Greater Accra region. And if we want to look at it, it's the 16th ranked, and I want to bring to you what is resulting in the challenges that we're seeing. A number of us have been seeking to ascribe reasons why we're seeing a lot of us come down to the capital. There's been conversations, which I know a number of us have heard about, rural-urban migration and the likes. But here's what we're learning from the data that we're seeing, that as at the last time we could confidently say there was a plan for Accra, 1958. That's the first comprehensive urban plan post-independence that we've had. And so Accra, as we have it currently, what does the data say? The planned areas constitute just 30%. The entirety of the capital, the planned areas is just 30%. The unplanned is 45%. And then there's been a mixed development constituting some 25%. And what are the challenges which we have on our hands? Rapid population growth, there's been limited resources, and then there's been a challenge with administration as a result of that. And then lastly, waste generation in the capital, which leads to the filth, which constitutes a great chunk. And if we go back some 8 years ago, there was a promise to make Accra the cleaner city. It continues to be one of the many things that successive governments have been seeking to do. Here's why that continues to be a challenge, because as at now, we produce 900,000 tons of waste annually, in the metric tons of waste annually in the capital. Let's look at collection of waste. In formal areas, formal industries, homes and the likes, there's a 99% collection rate, but in these informal settings, that reduces greatly to just 51%, and we've walked you through the annual waste production rate in the country. On a daily basis, 2,465, and averagely, each person is producing some 0.45 kilograms of waste. But Kameni, you have the data right now as to what our population is in the year 2025 and what the projections could be in about 2050 as well.
Absolutely. And while we know that the land size is not going to change, of course, unless there is a miracle, the sea gives us more land, you know, that's far-fetched. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
We know that between 2021 and 2025, by the end of this year, we are projecting that we'll have some 6.13 million people living in Accra. And so between that 2021 figure of 5.4 and the 6.13, we're seeing about 900,000 people more coming to live in Accra or being born in Accra and so living in Accra.
Yeah.
And then we see the figures, you know, go up and up and up. Now look at the 2040 figure is 8.6 million.
That's a projection.
So absolutely, the projection, right? So from 6.13 million to 8.6 million, but I'm more very much enthused by
about
the
2050.
2050. How old would you be?
We can fit into the capital is a conversation that we must have.
How old would you be in 2050? You'll be old enough.
Yeah,
you'll be
old enough.
Old enough. We'll be 10.5 million people living in Accra, assuming that you and I will still be here. We'll be here with the population. Now that means that more importantly, that means that we have to be doing and planning now. We have to be doing the important things and planning now. Housing, roads, waste management, you just mentioned over there, dealing with our drainage system in the capital city. Can you imagine when 10.5 million people are living here in the capital city and then we don't know how to manage our waste? I don't see how we'll be able to live with, look, 900,000 tons with 5.4 million people. When we double the number, are we looking at 1.8? 1.8 million?
That would be crazy numbers. And considering that well above 50% of the capital right now is not properly planned as well, then we could have real problems on our hands. And so a conversation has been started by the current president that is seeking to move the administrative capital elsewhere. What would it mean for population here in the Greater Accra region and then the next possible administrative region? We cannot tell, but the population continues to increase and increase, as you've shown us. And if that doesn't happen any sooner, then the problem on our hands will be a lot bigger as well. And so that's it for us, by the way of By the Numbers. Let's bring the regional hub right now as well.
Now, a youth miners group in Obuasi has raised concerns over the alleged involvement of foreigners in community mining schemes. The group claims that a mining site handed over to the community by Anglo Gold Ashanti is now being exploited by foreign operators, contrary to the intended purpose. During a press briefing at Akatacheso, the miners insisted the site should be beneficial to the entire community, not just individuals. They called for stricter enforcement of regulations to ensure local residents reap the full benefits of the initiative.
This area is now being controlled by one person instead of being a cooperative. Most of the workers there are being exploited. There are two operations going on. The site where locals are being exploited. The site being operated by the Chinese on a joint venture with Akusimacho, which is against the small-scale mining rules and the community mining scheme. We wish to state clearly, we are here to enforce what was started by the movement committee, which was to see the locals working away from the main active areas of the mines.
Community mining is made for Ghanaians, not for foreigners. But when you get down there, you see one site which is being located. He has located that site for Chinese. They are operating there. And community mining too is not for Chinese. It is not for foreigners, but for citizens. When things when things are trying to get out of hands, we have our own way.
We're staying in the Ashanti region because health officials there are concerned about the declining numbers of mental health nurses in the region. The situation is set to undermine healthcare delivery for patients with psychological and emotional disorders.
Recent report from the Ghana Health Service indicates that more than 60% of mental health nurses in the Ashanti region have left the country in search of better opportunities abroad, leaving a critical gap in mental health care services. This has left psychiatric facilities in the region struggling with understaffing, leading to increased workloads for remaining nurses and longer wait times for patients. Dr. Francis Opon, a leading psychiatric specialist in the region, expressed deep concern over the situation.
If you look at mental health nurses within the region, it's decreasing because many of them have traveled outside. We are yet to have replacements, and that is going to compromise inpatient care. Okay, so I'll take this opportunity to plead with government and major stakeholders that when there's opportunity to give financial clearance and post health professionals, they should take a critical look at mental health, because the gap is so wide and we are unable to do much without the needed human resource.
To observe the Mental Awareness Month, the Regional Office of the Mental Health Authority has intensified its screening educational activities at Tafo, Menchia and Kumasi South hospitals. The mental health advocate hinted that despite the rising demand for mental health care, treatment facilities remain woefully under-resourced.
If you go to all the various health facilities, government health facilities, there are mental health units. Unfortunately, a percentage of patients or those who become mentally unwell will need admission. However, none of our facilities have the capacity to admit mental health patients.
Now, in other stories, lack of medical doctors and other health workers, as well as critical medical equipment and consumables in the Nanton district of the northern region, forces many residents to travel several kilometers to Savlugu and Tamale for healthcare services, including blood transfusion. Correspondent Christopher Mwako's visit to the area reveals that the entire district has no medical doctor. He's now joining us for more on this story. Chris, good afternoon. I can imagine how residents have to cope with the situation, but tell us more about the healthcare gaps in Nanton.
Yes, so Kemini, if you visit the Nanton district, which was created out of the Savlugu district in 2018, they only have 3 health centers, no polyclinic, no district hospital, and so most of their cases have to be referred, including blood transfusion. And so this has become a cause of worry for not only the residents, but also the stakeholders living in the Nanton enclave. Now, what they are saying is that if it will take a pregnant woman to go to Savlugu or Tamale to just have blood transfusion or ultrasound conducted on her, then it means that it is a very serious matter. And they have been expressing concerns and calling on government to see to the completion of the Agenda 111 hospital or even upgrade one of the existing health centers. Let's take a listen to what some of them have been saying.
Baby and no me, Georgette and operation, Cabini so chance of you. I say, now you pull got the one that you are agenda 111. The yellow, got the diligence in Pihabo, got the chance of you. Then the operation got the chance.
Well, Christopher, quickly, what was she saying in that video clip?
Yes, so basically she's talking about the stress they go through accessing some critical healthcare. You talk about surgeries, you talk about blood transfusion, and other services that they want to get at the Nanton health facility, health center, which is not there, and so they have to travel outside the district.
I see. What are the stakeholders saying about this worrying situation, especially following the delay in completion of the Agenda 111 hospital in that district?
So basically, in the interim, they want one of the health centers upgraded into a polyclinic so that they will have a medical doctor, they can have X-ray services, they can have ultrasound, they can have other critical services that they do not get right now to minimize the number of people who are always referred to Tamale and Savulgu. Let's take a listen to what the Member of Parliament and the District Health Director have to say.
We do not have a district hospital. Laboring women in labor go through a lot of stress having to go to Tamale or to Savulgu to deliver. When they need surgical services like cesarean delivery, we would have to send them to Tamale or Savulgu. So together we want to ensure that we provide those facilities for our people to also enjoy. Look, the benefits of health is to get it when you need it. The benefit of health is to have it as close as possible to you. And that is the whole essence of what His Excellency John Dramani Mahama is talking about in terms of health. And that is the dream we all have for this district.
Comes to the pregnant women, when it comes to the children, when it comes to the patients, it means that when they go to our healthcare facilities, they are not able to get the full spectrum of primary healthcare. And so it means that if there is a woman who needs a cesarean section, we have to send her to the Savulgu hospital.
Oh, you heard from some residents of the Nanton district regarding healthcare there. Earlier was Northern Region correspondent Christopher Amwako.
And we're back here on your television. There's some news coming through from the courts right now. Remember, we were there with my colleague Lord Edward Sari because a CSO group had taken the ongoing processes involving the committee process, seeing to whether or not the Chief Justice remains in office, this prima facie determination, asking that the court injuncts the process because the prima facie determination, as arrived upon by the President in consultation with the Council of State, was not made available to the Chief Justice. Well, the Supreme Court has returned a verdict, a majority 4-1 verdict, with Justice Asari dissenting on the injunction application. They make the argument that they found the injunction to be unmeritorious. The full reasoning will be made available on May 29, and the Supreme Court had dismissed the injunction against the processes involved in the removal of the Chief Justice Gerald Saba Tokonu. We know that civil society group Center for Citizenship, Constitutional and Electoral System, they filed that suit at the Supreme Court questioning the processes leading to the suspension of Gertrude Tokonu as Chief Justice. Let's get details quickly from Lord. Lord, we are awaiting the verdict. Talk to us about what more the justices had to say in dismissing this injunction application.
So the reading was very brief. There was a brief recess. They came back and then they read the decision of the court that there was a 4-1 majority with Justice Yao Asari Dakun dissenting, and like you indicated, the full reason will be made available next week. But even before I stepped out, the second case, which has to do with a private citizen, had just been called. And before the lawyer could move the motion for the injunction, Justice Amadou Tanko raised issue, indicated that just about 2 weeks ago, a similar injunction had been dismissed. The case had similar relief that they are seeking. And then a few minutes ago, it mentioned the fact that they had just refused an injunction application filed by the civil society organization. But it's not that they want to stop them from filing suit at the apex court, but they should be mindful not to do anything which will obstruct the constitution, because, and he indicated that at this point he was actually advising him that if he were him, he would have waited for the reasoning by the court, and then if they wanted to file their injunction suits, they'll be well advised to do so, but not to just also file their injunction, especially because they had filed the injunction just yesterday and was being heard today, Marina. And so as far as the suit by the civil society group is concerned, the decision is a 4-1 majority dismissal. And as far as that case is concerned, the committee's work will proceed. The suspension, the prayer to suspend the warrant of suspension of the Chief Justice will still be in full force, meaning that the Chief Justice will still remain suspended. But we'll see how things will pan out for this second case, which has been called by the private citizen.
For those details, that's my colleague Lord Iduasari. And so the first 4-1 majority decision by the Supreme Court. There's another application currently before the court being heard, and you heard Lord mention as well, Kemeni, that one of the justices was advising this fresh petitioner as well that they've just dismissed an injunction application about 2 weeks ago. There's one that's just been dismissed as well, and so perhaps they should await the reasoning of the court in arriving at those decisions and then inform themselves or arm themselves properly before they again come before the court to seek an injunction application. But we'll see how that goes as well. It looks like uncharted waters. A lot of people are interested in having the court make some determination on the processes there. Anyway. But that's our bulletin for you this afternoon. We're back again tomorrow. I am Owen Egbe.
And I am Kemeni Amano. Next is the afternoon show. Bye-bye from us.